Thank you once again for this robust and insightful session. And moving on to the next one, where we deep dive into the financial strategies that propel startups to new heights. From innovative funding models to growth-centric investments, this discussion is going to be all about unlocking the potential of Bharat's entrepreneurial ecosystem.
Absolutely. Moderated.
It's going to be moderated by Ms. Soumya Suryanarayanan, an influential voice in impact investing.
Thank you so much. Very excited to be here. I think we have one of the biggest panels, but number of panelists, but it's going to be the most exciting discussion on one of the most critical yet overlooked aspects of India's startup story, right? Financing growth beyond our metros in what we call Bharat, the tier 2, 3 towns and rural hinterlands that hold immense potential, entrepreneurial potential. While urban startups dominate our headlines today, as you know, 65% of India's population depend on rural economies, where agri-tech, farmer entrepreneurship and food supply chain are transforming lives. Yet, access to capital continues to remain the biggest barrier. But change is brewing. Innovative models are coming up. You have impact investing, revenue-based financing, blended finance, and corporate partnerships are emerging. And today we have a stellar panel of leaders who are at the forefront of this transformation. I would like to start with Dr. Ajay K. Sood, who's the Deputy Managing Director of NABARD, and he brings decades of experience in rural and agricultural financing. So NABARD has played a pivotal role in rural development, sir. How can agri-tech, rural fintech and other Bharat-focused startups better leverage NABARD's schemes and funding mechanisms?
So thank you so much. So first of all, let us recognize that Bharat or rural India is really facing distress. Agriculture is the only sector in India which has been bereft of reforms in one way or the other. Since 1991, when liberalization took place, reforms took place, agriculture by and large has been left out of it. And there are many issues in agriculture or rural areas like logistical issues, issues of remunerative prices to the rural people in various capacities, which are affecting the rural population. And on a bigger macro front, if India has to achieve its Viksit Bharat dream, then the rural areas have to develop. I mean, there is no alternative left. That is one thing. And to solve all the problems of the rural areas, I think the rural fintech, agri-tech is the solution. So NABARD has been associated with nurturing these enterprises one way or the other. One of the initiatives that we have taken is the rural business incubation centers with the various institutions, including the agricultural universities in various parts of the country. 10 such rural business incubation centers we have established throughout the countries, where the entrepreneurs who have ideas for solving these problems, they can come incubate their ideas. They are providing the entire ecosystem there. And it is not only the ecosystem in terms of incubation, but in terms of providing seed capital. Seed capital is also available. And for those rural techs which have some prototype available with them, then funding is also available from our catalytic capital fund. Apart from this, we have NAB Ventures, NABARD Venture, which is running various funds, apart from the Government of India fund of Agri-Sure Fund, where also direct funding is available, as well as the fund of funds scheme is also there, where investment through alternative investment fund is also available. Number two, there are many social capital available in the country in the form of producer organizations or self-help groups, which are having a lot of ideas for solving the problems of rural areas. So these rural techs, agri-techs, they can connect with them. So we know in rural areas, one of the important thing is trust deficit. If we are not able to connect with the people, trust is a basic factor which lacks. If you are missing that trust, then whatever ideas you have, it is not going to be successful. So if you are having an idea, I think moving through these organizations is something which is very, very important.
That's great, sir. Thank you so much for explaining that. I would like to move on to Mr. Vikas Bali now. He's the CEO of Intellicap and leads a firm that has advised and invested in inclusive businesses for over 2 decades now. And his work in designing sustainable financing models for Bharat's entrepreneurs is unparalleled. So Intellicap advises on inclusive business models. Vikas, how can startups in Bharat design unit economics that attract both impact investors as well as commercial capital?
Thank you, Soumya, for that wonderful question. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I answer an even better question, which is, what should startups do? Should they be chasing the investors, or should they be chasing market, demand, and pricing their products and services in accordance with the affordability, accessibility, and reaching of those costs to serve, of reaching those customers? And that's really the more important question. हिंदी में एक saying है, आप जिस चीज के पीछे भागोगे उतनी आगे भागेगी. Investor is also that same commodity. All the entrepreneurs who are chasing investors, good thing to do. The better thing is they chase you. And they're going to chase you if your business models are great and at scale you can demonstrate you will make lots of money, including in the rural areas. As I said, awareness, accessibility, affordability are absolutely key issues in addressing the last mile in the rural areas. We were working with a very large institution, tens of thousands of crores, who wanted to reach rural Bharat. And we made them tie up with a microfinance institution to sell their products and services. I'm talking about a company which is a transnational, which has tens of thousands of crores of rupees in India. But for reaching the last mile, they had to piggyback on a microfinance institution. And the model was successful that it was scaled to other countries. So the point that I'm making is be very, very innovative, be very, very flexible. Like large companies need innovations, innovators need to piggyback on large companies in order to establish their business models. Another point is about affordability. You cannot design products and services for Bharat the way you do for India. Many of you would remember the sachayization of the shampoo. Think about how you can sachetize your products and services when you are addressing rural Bharat. Learn to build trust. Sample your product, build trust, and that's when you'll be able to really help scale up your volumes in rural Bharat. So, apologies for changing your question.
No, thanks, because that was extremely insightful, and I hope startups in this room are listening to this. Now, moving on to the Bharat entrepreneur, we have Kishore here, Kishore Jha, who's the CEO of Argos, a pioneering agri-tech platform. Kishore has been enabling small farmers and rural businesses through grain banking and digital credit solutions, a perfect example of Fintech bridging Bharat's financing gap. So, you work very closely with farmers and agri-entrepreneurs. What is the biggest financing challenges for agri-startups, and how can Fintech solutions like yours, help? Or how are you helping farmers?
Hello. Yeah, so thanks, Soumya. So as Ajay sir said that trust is one of the biggest factor, and that's why the lending community always maintain distance from this Bharat customer. But we at Argos, we run a grain bank model, which have almost cracked the secret of this, that speed is very critical in this business. When farmer need to, buy input tomorrow morning for sowing, the land is ready. He cannot wait for 10 days or 15 days. If he needs to do the irrigation tomorrow morning, he has to do it. So the speed is very critical. The ticket size is very critical, where 20,000, 30,000 rupees is required. If the lending, the company is able to disburse that much amount within few hours, that's the key. If you can, facilitate that ticket within timeline and the repayment from the farmer, where you have a visibility of the farmer's income. These are all things possible if you use technology for the last mile to capture their income details and integrate lender and the borrower in a secured manner. So there the Argos has solved it And we are running this company for last 13 years, and successfully we have, created a fantastic ecosystem for the lenders on our platform, where the farmers have been able to repay every penny on time, zero delinquency, very proudly say. And that is possible because we run at farm gate. We do the transaction. Through that, we demonstrate that how to build trust. And there is no any other way to build trust than to demonstrate what you commit, what you deliver. So that's how we have experienced that in agri-tech, in India, if we need to build any value, we have to go to the last mile, bring last mile people in the mainstream, enable them to learn technology, to avail finance, to sell their grain, to sell their produce on their own. No intermediaries, no middleman, no third person. Because today we are operating at more than 5,000 villages, and we have seen every farmer have smartphone. Every farmer have a smartphone. Whether they are using feature phone for their own, the daily purposes, but in every house there is one smartphone, and that can be used for transaction, build transparency, speed and trust. So that's where, the Ergos is able to create value for them.
And you operate in Bihar.
Yeah, we started from Bihar, and we are now operating in Karnataka and Maharashtra, and we have seen that adoption level, the challenges is almost similar across the country.
Thank you, Kishore, for that. The key takeaway for me is trust, building trust, and operating with speed and efficiency. I would like to come to Srinivas right now. He's the CEO of Willgrow, one of India's largest impact incubators. Srinivas has nurtured hundreds of startups solving problems in healthcare, agri, and energy for low-income communities. So Willgrow's model proves that innovation thrives beyond metros. So Willgrow has nurtured many startups, both rural and semi-urban. So how have you tailored your programs to address the unique challenges faced by Bharat entrepreneurs?
Thank you, Soumya. I think just the way you introduced us speaks a lot. For starters, the expectations we have from the companies that we work with is quite different from probably what you heard. So number one, if we find founders sitting in office most of the time, then we have a problem. If you're not in the field, if you don't know your customer, and if you're talking about Bharat here, small towns and villages, then your time should be with them, not sitting in office making a fancy deck. Right? So the second piece that we have an expectation is in and out of your product, in and out of your customer. So those two things that we tailored in our expectations of founders. But it also means the way we work has changed. So internally we have quite a large team, and most of them are experts. And one of them is sitting right here, Shivang. Maybe you should meet him. But the team knows in and out of the subject. They do not expect 3-year projections. They do not expect some crazy growth from you. They know that your business is going to grow at a much slower pace. You're likely to be profitable. So we are prioritizing profit. We are prioritizing product fit rather than valuation. Yeah, and most likely, many of these Bharat entrepreneurs are not going to be raising valuation, equity. That's fine. Because if what India and Bharat need are good businessmen and businesswomen, not some crazy valuation which mean nothing, but apart from something on paper.
Thank you, Srinivas, for that. From Srinivas, I'm going to move to Rajat. He's the president of the Indian Venture and Alternative Capital Association and has been instrumental in shaping policies and mobilizing capital for startups across India, including Bharat. So from an investor lens, what are the key risks and rewards of backing startups in Bharat? So Srinivas said you shouldn't focus on valuation, but would love to hear from you on how VCs and PEs can adapt their strategies to better support these ventures.
Thank you, Soumya. And like all investors do, listen up to what the startups are saying and then make your own decision. And by the way, don't get scared with what Vikas was saying. If you're a good startup, the investor will run behind you. You don't have to run behind the investor. So certainly. So the situation, what we look at in India right now, in the last decade, about $430 billion, which is about 35 lakh crores, has been invested into this ecosystem.
only 10% or probably less than 10% has been invested into tier 2 and tier 3, right? But there is an investment which is still going on. Swami, you mentioned something on a risk and a reward, right? Frankly, if there's no risk, there's no reward, right? And that's what the investors are in the game. In a tier 1, what the investor is looking for is primary return, right? It's certainly there is risk, but then there is high return. In the tier 2 and tier 3, the approach is more about a developmental approach. So again, today the investor is wearing this hat and saying, I know. In terms of the advantages today of working out and investing into tier 2 and tier 3 cities, the cost of working out and investing into a startup which is running from a tier 2 or tier 3 city is nearly 30 to 40% much lesser. So clearly that's an advantage towards you, right? Again, it's an untapped market. Today in the urban cities, we've solved the problem. We're still continuing to solve the same problem, right? Repeatedly. There is opportunity across, there are different ideations. There are different challenges in each of these tier 2, tier 3 cities, which makes it an opportunity for more innovation to be built and the investor to actually look at something, newer ideas as well. Coming on, so that really helps to build the portfolio diversification which the investor is looking at. Talent is far more affordable, right? Today, when I look at tier 2, tier 3 cities. Again, the angel networks today, which you used to see in the urban cities, now is migrating to the tier 2 and tier 3 cities. So the angel networks, they are understanding what it is to invest into unlisted vis-a-vis the listed space, right? There are more returns to be made, there are more innovations to be backed, and there is a satisfaction which everybody desires. So clearly, I would say risk low, certainly the valuation risk will be there, but that happens anywhere. It takes time to develop a startup for it to move towards a higher valuation. Return may come in later, right? Opportunities are there, and that is what we need to look at. Even the government, when it starts to look at, some of the putting across money in sunrise sector. Now, these are sectors where typically a venture capitalist is not entering into, right? In the agri space, if I look at it, I mentioned that number, out of 50, 60 billion which is invested every year, only $1 billion goes into agri space, which is very less. And that's where it's probably time to look at how we as domestic capital kind of boost it up, because today our capital, 85 to 90% is still international capital. Back to you, Soumya.
Thanks, Rajat, for that. I'm going to come to Dr. Sood now. So we've heard from investors, we've heard from incubators here. So how is NABARD collaborating with private investors, incubators to de-risk early ventures in semi-urban and rural areas?
So as I have already explained that there is a set of incubation centers, accelerators through which we associate with them, and then we have a lot of organizations working at the field level in terms of farmer producer organizations or farmer producer organizations through which we get hints and then we connect with them.
So if you can give some examples, that will be helpful as well.
Sorry, pardon?
If you can give some examples, that will be helpful as well.
For example, we have Madurai Agri-Business Center in Tamil Nadu Agriculture University, which is working. So startups, lot of startups, they can come there, they can work there, they can exchange ideas with each other. We can provide them with market connect, we can connect them with the people. We provide them with seed capital also. It's not only, the incubation facility. Then in case they need funds to grow also, then also we have arrangements for that. We have, I told that catalytic capital fund is there, through which we can do it. But the major thing is that how to take it forward. That is upscaling is the major thing. So basically there is a need for creation of lot of incubation and acceleration center throughout the country, where lot of ideas are lying up. They are sleeping actually. So how to take them? So basically the need of the hour is that all of us should collaborate with each other. Development is such an area that individual entities cannot handle it. I mean, the venture capitalists are there, funders are there, developmental agencies are like us are there, Government of India schemes are there. So collaboration is the keyword, I think, which will help this.
Thank you, Dr. Sood. Picking on your point on collaboration, I'm going to go to Vikas here. Vikas, how can corporate partnerships, CSR, strategic investments play a bigger role in financing Bharat's entrepreneurial ecosystem?
Great question. Water everywhere, not a drop to drink. Same concept as far as capital. The capital providers think it's there everywhere. The seekers of capital never find it. Blended finance is one such instrument which is becoming more and more popular in the imagination of people to target hitherto areas which do not access the classical commercial equity capital directly. And blended capital needs that underlying layer of security, be it in the form of a grant, be it in the form of a non-returnable or a returnable grant, be it in the form of a concessional debt, all of these kind of structures. The opportunity for us here is to see how CSR monies, the 2% profit number, can be funneled into providing that layer of security, that layer of guarantee in case things go wrong. And that is how we can find additional pools of capital to reach the models which are seeking to serve the Bharat. So collaboration needs to happen between CSR and between financiers who will put together the entire structure for the money to be invested into the entrepreneur.
Thank you, Vikas, for that. I'm going to come to Rajat actually. Rajat, how can industry bodies, like we are talking about collaboration here, how can industry bodies like IVCA encourage more institutional capital to flow into startups beyond urban India? And do you see any policy interventions or incentives that could accelerate the shift?
So again, in terms of there are a lot of initiatives being done by the government, but primarily what we're looking at, one of the best ways to address this domestic pool of capital issue is by a fund-to-fund structures. We've seen various states trying to come up and promote this. We've had discussions with the Ministry of Tribal Affairs, we've had discussions with Ministry of Ayush, even Ministry of Defense is looking at how work can be done out of different states, right? So fund-to-fund structure is a good structure to have. And that is where a lot of domestic money can participate. And in the fund-of-fund structures, we're looking at just like you as an investor invest into a mutual fund, that you as a retail investor, however, if the government and the policies can come in together to put retail investments into fund-of-funds, which can further support certain good fund managers who can go back and deploy this money across with you, right? So that's one area where we've seen. You know, the DPIIT does a startup state ranking, so at least it builds a competition. You know, Niti Aayog is working towards initiatives where both global, that's FDI comes into different states, as well as skills and innovation gets developed by building incubation setups in universities. So some of these initiatives which will help build the pipeline, and further investments will definitely flow once the pipelines are coming in. Right now, the issue is good pipeline, and I think that's a responsibility all of us must take to enable. Even in the early stage, let's tell you that the seed stage funding, what people are saying, is it going down? It's not. It's gone up 1.2x. Out of the 1,024 deals which took place in India, 756 deals were in seed stage funding, which is a growth of 1.2x over last year. So, you know, money is there, focus is coming there. It only needs to build the right, correct solutions across. Samya, thanks.
Thank you, Rajat. And as Vikas said, water everywhere. I hope we get the drop to drink, all the startups here. So here, one last final question to all the panelists here. If you had to recommend one game-changing action to accelerate funding for Bharat startups, what would that be? Maybe Vikas, we can start with you and then...
I think Government of India needs to put together 1 lakh crore fund and
Okay.
take it forward from there.
Okay, thank you. Srinivas?
I think we have a completely different model for looking at risk. I think we are confusing risk models of urban India with those in Bharat. So the same challenges that we seem to think they behave the same way. The one thing is relook at risk models the way credit scoring is done.
Thank you. Kishore?
Yeah, my experience, I would say, pick up one problem in Bharat and hammer it, and prove it that you can build model around it profitably, so that you can prove it wrong to the world that yes, there is a profitability from the bottom of pyramid. You can make a lot of money, you can create a lot of wealth to the community.
Thank you.
So if you ask me to give one idea or one sector, so I would say in agriculture, if I say, absentee landlordism is one of the major issue. In some of the states, 30 to 40, 50% of the land is done by tenant farmers, which are not able to get access the formal finance because of lack of collaterals. So I think all the banking sector is struggling with that. How do we find the alternate data sources to finance these people? We are running one pilot project with the RBI Innovation Hub to finance these people, but this is on a very pilot stage, this is a very small scale. So we require the help of the startups for finding a solution to this. How do we digitize their cash flows? How do we find alternate data sources? If we are able to find a solution to this, I think the growth in rural areas can move manifold.
Thank you, Dr. Su. Rajat?
My one word is domestic capital so domestic investors should trust our own startups which are domestic. Let's not lose our IPRs. Let's keep them with us. Let's have more domestic money coming into play, which is extremely important. Thank you.
Thank you so much for this wonderful, one solution. While we had like 5 different solutions, or this has been like fantastic. Thank you so much to our panelists here. A big round of applause, please. Very, very divergent views from the panel. Thank you very much. Over to you.
Thank you, Soumya. Thank you so much.